I'm gonna need a bigger bowl. So 50 years ago, Steven Spielberg released a movie that would change cinema forever. This movie, of course, being Jaws, which is one of the most celebrated movies even today, and it gets referenced in many other movies and many other TV series. Between the iconic music, whenever the shark is coming, which we've all heard growing up. Everyone knows the second you hear it, you know what it's from. From iconic one liners that also get referenced and repeated and quoted. So, Jaws tells a simple story of a great white shark terrorizing a beach full of tourists and people just looking to swim and have a great day, only to get picked off one by one by this big ass shark. So it is then down to three men to stop it because the mayor is he only cares about money, so. But what I really loved about this movie was how realistic it was. I know there was lots of problems with the animatronic shark called Bruce. And don't worry, we'll get into all that. But the things that I did like about this movie, I loved how realistic it was. Like, for example, there's a scene where the two protagonists, protagonists, protagonists are talking to the mayor and trying to get him to shut the beach down. Otherwise, people are gonna, get eaten by this shark. And the way the whole scene plays out, which by the way is impressive because it's all in one take, which I thought was very impressive too. But just the acting, the way they talk, like arguing and arguing over each other, it gives that sense of realism, which I really appreciate. And just the score also. I mean, the acting is awesome. The suspense is another thing I really, really honestly loved. Like, one of my favorite scenes, and it stuck out to me, and to this day it sticks out, is whenever the Brody, he's on the beach, he's watching, he's extra cautious. Somebody comes to talk to him, and he's just still looking out at the sea to make sure the kids are okay. And then you have this really eerie scene where you just see in the background a kid just getting pulled down, and you see, the sea's turning red, and then you have that really awesome camera shot of Brody where it zooms in, but it's the cool style that they used. Awesome, eerie, horrifying, terrifying. You have the mom gets up after everybody is told to get out of get out of the water, and she's there without her kid, and it's heartbreaking. And also the music, just the music in general, not just the iconic music, but the music in general. Like, throughout this movie is so well done. It's so well. It's like it's in the right places. Like, it's not like music you hear. It's like that just doesn't do the scene justice. But every single scene where there's music fits. It's perfect. I have to also say that one of the most iconic monologues by I have his name, Robert Shaw. I had to write it down because I'm terrible names. But Robert Shaw was robbed of an Oscar in this movie. Has to be said. That iconic monologue that he gives about Indianapolis and so fucking legendary. Like how this man didn't get an Oscar or some form of award is beyond me. Still gives me chills. Even today. Fun fact. Did you know that Robert Shaw had to do that scene twice? Because the first attempt, it's really no secret that Robert Shaw had alcohol problems and he was drinking on set of Jaws. So they did try to do the Indianapolis monologue scene, but he couldn't do it because he was too intoxicated, I guess, and he kept getting the lines wrong. So as he went home that night, he was disappointed in himself. So he called Steven Spielberg on the phone that night and says, "Can we try it again tomorrow? I know I can do it." And he went in and completely bossed it. Literally, he fucking nailed it in the second attempt. And it became one of the most iconic monologues in movie history. Because what a great performer he was. You're still robbed of an Oscar.
Comes the nearest man, that man, he starts pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you. Right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes. Black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over wide.
Also, another fun fact. Do you know that in the scene where Roy Schneider's character, Brody, is like going down like that and the shark jumps up and it terrifies him. He jumps back and he says the iconic line, you know, we all know it. You're gonna need a bigger boat. But did you know in that scene where he jumps, there was actually a genuine reaction? Because the animatronic shark they called Bruce kept breaking down throughout the whole movie. You know, they kept having problems with it, and you know, so it took 19 tries to get that scene where it jumped out and scared Brody. That on the 20th, whatever did happen, that was actually a genuine reaction from Brody, that from the actor himself, because he wasn't expecting it. You know, the cameras went on, and boom, it was all done. But it was awesome. And that's what made it more realistic because there's genuine reactions. So, yeah, that's a fun fact. And you know, there's so much like behind the scenes stuff, like you have like with Robert Shaw as an actor because of his, you know, alcohol habits. Him, you know, he was fighting with another main character or main actor, Richard Dreyfuss, I think his name is. You know, they kept bickering and fighting, and but it's still amazing that all those things, like the shark repeatedly breaking down multiple times, you know, other stuff like fighting and stuff, and yet they still released this masterpiece and it still came out amazing. You know, if anything, the behind the scenes fighting between them two actors kind of did add some on screen tension, which made it even more realistic. So, you know, it all worked out. But yeah, this movie is timeless. It's one of the movies where, I mean, I have the same thought like with The Exorcist, and this movie. I always look back and say, why is there sequels? Why? This should have been a one and done, in my opinion. I don't get why there's sequels, and but don't worry, I'm going to be reviewing this whole franchise. So, the second one that's going to be next, and then oh, I can't wait to get to the third one, and then there's the fourth one. So look forward to that. That's going to be interesting. Now, I've said all the things I do love about it: the acting, the music, the suspense, everything. The things I didn't really like, and there's not that many, so so don't worry. But there's scenes where I just sometimes feel that the movie kind of drags its feet at some points, But again, that's just me nitpicking. You know, I'm one of them people who's like, I like to, just keep all the action going. But I do appreciate it because I understand it has to take, you know, those little steps to get to the big payoff, and it worked. It did work. So I think it's great, and I think it was a good idea on Steven Spielberg's part to have it like that. But there's just some parts I'm like, why are we watching? Why are we? Can we just get back to the shark? But I appreciate it, and again, it's only me nitpicking and blah. I think that's literally don't. The only thing I don't like about it. Yeah, that's the only thing. There's so many other scenes. Like there's a scene that was cut where Robert Shaw's character, after he got devoured in that scene, which was ironic if you listen to the monologue and that, and it's kind of a foreshadowing. But they had originally had it where his head would come out of the shark later on, but Steven Spielberg thought it was a bit too grim, so it was cut. And I'm glad it was cut. I am. I don't. I feel the character deserved a bit more than that. As gruesome as it was, and also I love that, like from the 1970s, in terms of movies, they really did have some balls back then. Like kids getting eaten on screen, and you got blood and everything, and then you watch The Exorcist, and well, need I say more? You don't really get movies like that anymore. That has the balls to go that bit further, not just for shock factor, but just to say that to tell a great story and to show that the stakes are high. This is some real shit. This isn't they no fucking around. This is all happening. And I wish movies would sort of reach out to that, sort of get their balls back. Instead of being all. Another thing I loved was the practical effects. Love it, because let's face it, if Jaws was remade today, it would all be CGI. The shark would probably have red glowing eyes. It would be rough. So once again, practical always beats CGI. Always said it. But yeah. But overall, this movie is timeless, classic, and on its 50th anniversary, it should absolutely be watched. If you haven't seen this movie, owe it to yourself to check it out. Trust me, you will walk away satisfied. It is a brilliant movie. And yeah, 50 years, huh? Where does time go, huh? So, if I were to score this movie, it has to be, for me personally, 9 out of 10. I think that may be the highest I've ever given any movie, the highest score I've ever given on this channel. And it deserves every goddamn part of it. So, check it out. And seriously, Robert Shaw should have got an Oscar. Anyway, if you stuck around this long, thank you so much for watching. I wholeheartedly appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I love you all. And as always, don't kill anyone.